Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Wow, that sounded crappy to me. Hey, everybody. This is TJ Morris with ET Radio. We're doing American Communications Online Broadcasting. It goes right up on Spreaker, which goes right up on YouTube for us. But on Saturdays, apparently it's going to work out, it looks like, between me and Ronnie, getting y'all to come over and say we're going to do a You Ain't Gonna Believe This kind of show. Ronny Dawson of Texas and Teresa J. Morris of Florida. I'm in the Panhandle, people ask me. So we're going to do UAP talk shows live. That's unidentified anomalous phenomena. So I guess it doesn't have to be identified to be on here, and it doesn't have to be anomalous, but it doesn't have to be phenomena. But the UAP is something that somebody out there in algorithm land picked out for me, UAP.associates. I'm the director of it, which basically gives me a WordPress that I have to pay for. So we've got that, ACIR Radio, and this Blog Talk Radio we've had for 8 years now. So Ronny Dawson's an author and now a radio co-host because he's actually showed up and done this now about 4 or 5 weeks. So I guess we're going to consider him a regular here on our paranormal talk shows live. And Janet Carelesson of Hawaii may show up with one of her stories or whatever. She's invited. But Ronny, you said something. I just caught it on Facebook. I have to go find him sometimes to make sure he's going to be here. But you said Credo or Credo Critters or something. Why don't you first introduce yourself and tell everybody about you and all that, and I'm going to mute, so I'm going to let you take it away and see if you can do a full 2 hours by yourself, or if you need me, just holler, okay?
Okay, feel free to jump in anytime you want. This is Ronny Dawson. We're going to do a paranormal show tonight, and I'm here high atop my studio on Ranger Hill, and I have a crowd of people with us tonight. This is a live show right here in the Dawson Radio, so we have a crowd. It's maybe a little noisy in here from time to time, but tonight we're going to talk about this strange and mysterious cattle critter. It's a little-known Bigfoot sighting that occurred here in north-central Texas. When you hear the name Caddo, Texas, people don't really. They think it's out east, out there in the swamps, and that's where everybody sees the Bigfoot and stuff here in Texas, and Texas isn't really known for having that many Bigfoot sightings, but we actually have quite a few here in Texas, and we have some of the best Bigfoot sightings that people never heard of here in Texas, and not so much lately, and I think lately because it's just the population's got to the point we've pushed into the trees, we've pushed into the woods, and God only knows where we drove them, but this stuff has all occurred in our past right here. And Caddo, Texas is a little town. It's only about 15 miles north of where I live. And it's right here nestled in north central Texas in the hill country. It's not anywhere near East Texas where people might think it would be. Because when you hear the name Caddo, Texas, people associate it with Caddo Lake. Now, there is a Caddo Lake out in East Texas, and I've actually been there, and it's a swampy, spooky-looking place. It's got moss hanging from the trees, and it's right on the Louisiana border. But that's not where Caddo, Texas is at. Caddo, Texas is right out here in the middle of nowhere in north-central Texas. And believe it or not, a lot of the Bigfoot sightings, people just automatically assume it's out there in the swamps, but it's not. It's right here in north-central Texas, and there for a while, it just spooked the crap out of everyone in this area. But up here in this area, we have a bunch of old farmers and ranchers, and these are hard-nosed, salt-of-the-earth guys, and they ain't going to mess with no nonsense like that, So if they don't see it, they're going to try to debunk it. They're going to say, you don't know what you're talking about. I think they were blaming it on, they were blaming this UFO, these Bigfoot sightings on, they said a yak. They thought it might have been a gorilla that escaped from the Fort Worth Zoo. they thought we have a train track over here that runs through some canyon country, and sometimes the trains derail, and a lot of the old timers say that it was guerrillas that escaped from a wrecked train that went through the canyon and derailed. But there's no evidence of anything like that happening. But what there is evidence of is people around here seeing some stuff, and the crazy thing was it had everybody in this whole countryside scared at one point. I mean, it's to the point it was dangerous to walk up to people's house. And I remember during this cattle critter sighting time, my parents were actually living out in this little community of cattle, and I was only like 4 years old, and my sister was like 2 years old, and I remember my dad telling the story that they were scared to death. They lived out there out in the woods, pretty good ways away from town, and they were just scared to death of this thing. They left all the lights on, and my dad said they were just scared to death at the time, and everybody in the whole countryside over here was. And my dad told the story. Said we were all in bed asleep. The baby was in there sleeping, and I was in there asleep. And he said all of a sudden he heard a noise in the living room. He thought, oh man, this cattle critter may be trying to crawl in the house or something. So my dad got up, and he went in that living room, and he was scared to death. And he had his pistol with him. He said he was shaking so bad he don't know if he could have shot anything with it. And he walked in that living room. He seen that the wind, a window had been left open, and the wind had been blowing the curtains, and the wind had knocked over a lamp. And he said he seen that, and he was relieved. He's going, oh, okay, all right. So he went over there, and he turned the lamp off. And then he got to thinking, I don't want to leave that window open. That cattle critter could crawl in that window. And this is a big old open window with no screen, So he thought, well, he's going to let that window down. Back then, they put a stick of wood in there to hold the window up. So he pulled that stick of wood out, and then he let that window fall. Well, apparently there's a cat sitting in that windowsill, and that window fell on that cat's tail, and that cat went to screaming. My dad said he about had a heart attack right there. He just knew the cattle critter had got him, And he finally realized that window had fell on the cat's tail. He pulled the window up, and the cat quit screaming, and he had the cold chills running up down his back, and it just scared the living daylights out of him. And he told my mother, he said, man, we gotta move into town. Get out of this place, where these people live. But some had been killing the cattle over there, and they don't know. And they found tracks around the ponds and stuff like that, weird-looking footprints. And they said it was almost like a lot of people were saying it was devil worshippers, because something would just tear the cattle's throat out and then not even eat them. And so whatever it was really had them spooked. And but I want to talk to you about. That this is a sighting that got the cattle critter started right here, and it happened way back. It says Charlie Gant, 72, a local rancher. And I'm reading this out of the Abilene Reporter newspaper for let's see when it was, July. It happened on July 18, 1964, and this was in the Abilene Reporter News a few days later. It said, Charlie Gant, 72, a local rancher, states that he shot at the ape 9 or 10 times with his .22 long rifle revolver. The ape departed the area of his home that night on July 18, 1964. Unclear, but common sense says before the report by little Gene Couch, 9, who was Charlie Gant's neighbor. He reported seeing the ape while walking to the fishing spot that same day. And his mother also stated that something had been fighting with the dogs at night. Again, it is unclear, but it seems reasonable to assume she was referring to the night before, even earlier to these events. But something had residents all worked up. And there's several articles were written on this thing. And the story about Charlie Gant is he had a 6-shooter and he had to reload this thing. And he said this thing had thrown rocks at the house, and he went outside and he fired the shots at it. And he went back in his house, and this thing had got on the roof. Something 300 or 400 pounds walking on the roof back then is something it's just going to make dust and stuff fall off the ceiling. He reloaded his gun again, and he ran outside again and shot at it again. And this thing ran off. But this same area, the kids, they said that kid and his mother, 9 years old, walking back from the fishing hole, or they were walking down to the fishing hole actually, and the kid seen it. He told his mother, and she seen it, and this thing growled at him, threw rocks at him, and then took off in the woods. And so these. This is the neighbor to Charlie Gant, just right down from him. So this is the same area that all this happened, and I know it had the whole area worked up, and right there in that cattle area, there was a school teacher that was driving from Palo Pinto, teaching in Breckenridge, Texas, that drives through cattle every day. 1 mile from Cattle, Texas, she's seen a hairy creature crossing the road. So, there's a lot of people seeing this thing. But anyway, so this story had everybody shook up at the time. And see, I'm going to read another article here, and it came from the Breckenridge paper. And the headlines of this paper in the Breckenridge, it says, gorilla-type animal hunted in cattle area. The cattle critter, an unidentified animal, possibly a gorilla, whose reported appearance this Saturday caused cattle area residents to arm themselves to the teeth, was not seen Sunday night. Everyone who has reported seeing the critter has given the same description to the sheriff's department. Everybody has said the thing is about 7 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and covered with hair, said Miss Allen Roberts, reporter news correspondent at Caddo. Stevens County Sheriff Chase Booth at the Texas Highway Patrol joined with some 10 to 12 residents of the community 14 miles east of here Saturday night in a search for the animal, first reported seen early Saturday evening. A cattle resident had unloaded his gun at the critter about 11:30 p.m. Saturday, but apparently failed to kill it. So it theorized that the wandering animal might be an escape from a game preserve which has been maintained on Possum Kingdom Lake by the late F. Kirk Johnson of Fort Worth. So, like I said, everybody was armed to the teeth and scared to death at this time of this thing is roaming around out here in the hill country, and then it was several years later. I was a sophomore in high school. And this was like 1977 in October, and I at that time I had an old Chevy, 51 Chevy Ram pickup, and me and a friend of mine is off in this same canyon country. It's up here closer to Ranger, and I was going to Ranger High School up here at the time, and this buddy of mine, his granddad happened to be Owen Rose. Now, Owen Rose, he owned some land off down this canyon country, and he leased a bunch of the other land down there, and he had lots and lots of cattle. And it was a rare privilege that his son, Carol, had asked the old man if we could trap. There wasn't anybody trapping down there. At this time, pelts were pretty high, and we were doing some trapping off down in there. We went off down in there and set some traps and stuff. And I was playing football and stuff, so I had to work out a schedule with him. We couldn't both be there every afternoon. So what would happen was I would run the traps in the morning, which I'd go shoot the animals, take them out of the traps, and if it was a skunk, I'd shoot it and leave it in the trap, and then we'd air out all day, and he'd take it out in the afternoon when he went out there. So here I am driving this old pickup, and I'm having to get up like 4 o'clock in the morning and go off down in this canyon. And at this time, in this old canyon country, I was young and not afraid of anything. I knew the most dangerous thing in that woods is me with a gun. I wasn't afraid of anything at that time. So I headed off down in that woods every morning without a lick of fear. I had a gun. There wasn't anything I was afraid of. Now, Owen Rose, he had an older son, and we had heard the story, and we kind of laughed it off. And that old cattle critter story, we just kind of laughed it off, too. We didn't really much believe it. And I was like, well, I don't know what it was. We don't know what it was, but it certainly wasn't what they're trying to say it was, a 7 to 8 foot creature 4 feet wide. Nothing like that would even be possible. And if we did believe something like that, there's no way you'd be able to go trapping off down in the woods at night. And so we just kind of laughed it off. But one of the stories that Owen and his family told was Owen had this older son. He was much older than us, and he had already left home and stuff when we were doing all this. But this guy, he grew up out there. He helped Owen with the cattle. He went down there. He deer hunted. He trapped back in the day. And this guy, he was an outdoorsman, and he would be growing up in that environment. So, but anyway, he told a story. He was down there hunting one afternoon, and he hadn't seen anything. So he was walking back to his truck, and it was very late in the afternoon, almost getting dark on him. I know when you're deer hunting, you try to get every bit of daylight you can, because they're right before dark is when the deer come out. So then you got to walk back to your pickup. A lot of times you're having to walk in the almost dark. So he finally gave up on the deer hunting. He's making his way back to the pickup. And anyway, he's walking there, and he's still carrying his gun, and he got a shell in it too, because if he runs onto a deer, it pops out, he's ready to shoot it. So he's walking back to his truck, and he heard something behind him. And he turned around, and there's this big hairy thing, and it's so close enough to him, it's actually reaching for him. And, man, he spun that gun up, and he pulled the trigger on that gun, and it went off. And then he's freaking out, trying to run backwards, tripping, trying to reload the gun, and this thing takes off. And it takes off, and it runs off back into the woods. Well, you can imagine this guy shook up after seeing this. So he comes home and he tells his dad Owen about this, and Owen he's an old rancher. He don't know what to think. This kid's not crazy, and he don't make up stories. So Owen don't know what to think. But when something down there dies, Owen finds it because of the buzzards. The buzzards will be circling. If you kill something down there or something dies, the buzzards is the first thing that they'll tell you where it's at. And this is a lot of land to hunt to look. You just can't go find a sick animal or something, So, Owen goes down there, and he's looking for buzzards circling, and there's nothing. There's nothing dead. Nothing dead. It doesn't appear to be anything dead. So he goes to the area the kid's talking about, and he finds a gun case in there on the ground, and he finds some blood on the ground. And so Owen starts following this blood trail, thinking, well, I'll probably find it. It'll be dead down here or something. But it's not a real bad blood trail, but it's definitely bleeding. And so Owen tracks it down to this Sandy Creek crossing. And when he gets to the Sandy Creek crossing, when he sees it, he says it's the strangest foot tracks he's ever seen. And Owen, he's one of those guys, he could see a foot track. He sees a footprint. He could tell you what it is, tell you if it's a coon, if it's a possum, or what it is. He's a very good tracker, and he's seen this thing. He said, I don't know. Never seen anything made tracks like that. And that's what that was Owen's assessment of it. Well, we weren't worried about it. We laughed this stuff off. We didn't think anything about it. But I'm down there every morning at 4 a.m. walking through the woods, checking these traps. Well, first thing I noticed, we're in some prime trapping country here in north central Texas. And we're down there, and we probably got 12 to 15 traps, something like that. I can't remember for sure, but I noticed we should have had a whole lot more animals than we did. We wasn't catching anything, and I kept finding these sticks. It was almost like somebody was walking up there and taking a stick and poking it in the trap and setting the trap off, and then all the bait's gone out of it. And it was quite frustrating. The whole point of us doing this was to make some money. And this is prime country to be catching animals, and we weren't catching anything. And it was quite frustrating for us. And so we're talking it over. So you know what? So we're going to have to just move some of our traps or something because we ain't having any luck. And a lot of the animals we were catching, and the reason we're running the traps twice a day is because if you're trapping it, if you leave an animal in the trap too long, it'll actually chew its own leg off. And then the pelts ain't hardly worth anything. They dock you real bad on the pelts. So you have to get the animals out of the trap quickly, or the pelt gets run. And so we're running it like you're supposed to twice a day. And a lot of the animals we ran, their legs, it was almost like they chewed their legs off. But thinking back to me, it seemed like something's pulling their legs off, like something's grabbing these animals and just dragging them out of the trap. Like another animal came along and just pulling their legs out, not like they chewed their leg off. But it's frustrating, man, because we're having some expensive animals that we could have made a lot of money off of, and all I've got in my trap is a leg. So we're pretty frustrated that we're not catching anything, and the ones we are catching are getting ruined or stolen or whatever. So it was pretty frustrating for us. So we decided we were going to meet up one weekend. We went down there and we're going to move some traps around and stuff, and it's not very often both of us got to go down there at the same time. So me and my buddy, we're down there together in his pickup, and we get the traps moved and stuff like that. So all right, now we'll see if we can do any better. And we said, well, in October down here, it's prime bullfrog season, and we'd already been by some stock ponds, and we had already shot some big old bullfrogs, and you could fry up them frog legs, and they're really good. They kind of taste like chicken, but they're really a delicacy down here, a southern delicacy down here. So I said, you know what? I said, man, we ought to go up to this. There's another pond up in this area that you can't even get to by truck. The road's all washed out, so you literally have to walk up there. And the reason we don't trap up there is because it's just too far. It's just too far to walk. It takes too much time to get back there to it. But we got everything done, and there was still some daylight left. And we decided, well, let's go to that little pond up there, the frog pond we call it. Let's go up there and see if there's some frogs up there. We got our guns. We got 2.22 automatic rifles, so we walk up there. We're going to check this pond out, see if we can get some more bullfrogs, maybe get enough to have a cookout. So me and my buddy, we parked the truck as close as we can, but it's still, I know it's got to be at least, I want to say probably half a mile that you're going to have to walk up this old road to this pond. And so we got our guns, and we're shooting the crap, and we're walking up here to the pond. And once we get up to the pond, one of the things we notice is there's just thousands of little frogs, but there's no bullfrogs anywhere, no big frogs. All the big frogs are gone. And this pond is so full of these little frogs that you could literally just sit there beside it and catch them with your hand. I mean, there's just tons and tons of them, I mean, you could sit there and eat frogs all day long and not catch them all. They're just jumping all over the place. Not one big frog to be found. And we were talking about, I wonder where all the big frogs are at. I can't imagine. We were real quiet sneaking up to the pond, but we didn't want to spook the frogs. So we snuck up there and seen all these little frogs, and we start talking then. We didn't spook any big frogs, so now we're start talking out loud. So we're having this conversation, wondering where all the mamas and daddies at. All we got is thousands and thousands of baby little frogs here in this pond, and that's just not right. Well, we start talking loud, and first thing we hear is this scary roar. And I mean, never heard anything roar like this, man. It's like a growl roar, and man, it spooked us both. We looked over, and this thing was close. It was probably 50 yards away, and you could tell whatever it was big and deep, and it made this loud roar. And I said, "My God, man!" And we started getting our guns. We took our guns off safety, and I'm like, "Okay, what in the heck is this?" And the next thing I know, you could see the brush moving. You could see the trees, and I'm talking mesquite trees, and we got some evergreen trees over here, and there's something like pushing its way through the. You ever see that movie Mighty Joe Young? That's exactly what it looked like. There's something so big moving through them trees that you can literally see the trees shaking. And then all of a sudden we hear the cracking, a large cracking of a branch. Like it was a big branch just got cracked and like tore off a tree. And we're just, oh man, whatever this thing is, it's big, it's mean, it's pissed off, and it's coming right towards us. And so we start backing up. And I'm sitting here, I got two guns. We got two guns, and I'm like, I ain't afraid of nothing. Whatever it is, we're going to shoot it. Whatever's coming out of this damn woods, we're fixing to kill it. And I told my buddy, he said, all right, man, you get ready, take aim when we, say get ready. This thing just kept moving. You can see it moving through the trees, and it's almost moving into sight. And there's one big evergreen tree between us and it and the side of where this pond is. And this thing stops. And I'm sitting there going, get ready, man, get ready. I dropped to one knee so I could get a better aim at it. And I'm sitting there, I don't want to shoot it till I can identify it. I just don't want to blindly shoot at what we're seeing, which is bits and pieces of it. I don't want to take a chance on it being something that shouldn't be shot. And I respect, this old man's property enough not to accidentally shoot one of his cows or something like that. So I'm not going to shoot until I see exactly what this thing is. And my buddy, he's sitting there, and he's got his gun loaded too. We're sitting there looking at it, and this thing is moving behind this tree. Now you can see now that whatever this thing is, it is like 8 feet tall. It's 4 feet wide, and I can't see the head on it. I'm just waiting to see the head on it. This thing is moving from side to side. It looks like it's got shoulders and arms on them, and I'm going, my God, what in the hell is that? And finally, my buddy, he said, I'm out of here, and he takes off, and I'm going, no, man, hold your ground, and he's just gone. He's gone, and I'm going, crap, man, I just lost half of my fighting force. He took off to the truck, so I'm sitting here, and I'm not knowing exactly what to do, and I'm not retreating, and I'm looking at this thing, and it's looking at me, and it's moving from side to side, almost like you can't get a good look at its head on one side of the tree, then it moves its head to the other side, and what I'm looking at looks like a shoulder of a giant football player that's got this brown hair on it, and on both sides. I can't get a clear view of the arm, but I can see the crease of the arm and the shoulder and the biceps of this thing, and it looks just like a giant human with hair on it. But this thing is 8 feet tall, and my God, it's wider than the tree. And I'm going, oh man, this is not. And then I'm going, man, whatever is going to happen here, I can tell I don't have enough gun to handle this guy. Whatever this thing is, I've got a .22 automatic, which is, you shoot something like this with a .22 automatic, you're just going to piss it off. And so I'm sitting there realizing, man, I ain't got near the gun to handle whatever the hell this thing is. So I start trying to back out there, and it occurs to me that my friend is scared. He's headed for the pickup. Now, how scared is he? I don't know how scared he is. He may jump in that truck, and he may haul ass and go to town for help and leave me stranded out there with this damn thing. I don't know. So I'm scared of what this thing is going to do to me if I run, for fear it might give chase. So I'm backing away slowly. I'm keeping my gun aimed at it. So I'm backing up. And then I'm thinking at the same time, my buddy, I hope he's there. I hope he don't jump in that pickup and take off and leave me down here stranded with this thing. And so I have all these thoughts racing through my head. I'm backing out slowly, keeping aim at this thing. And finally, I start backing this thing's out of sight where I can't really see it, but I'm still scared because I'm afraid this thing is going to come at me. And all of a sudden, I hear the bushes rattle to the side of me. Boy, I spun around thinking it's trying to flank me, and I didn't see anything. And the brush is so thick that you can't see anything in it. I mean, it's just really thick. And it was like, I can't imagine anything being in there, especially anything as big as that thing is. So I can't imagine what's making that sound. So I'm looking back and forth. I'm backing out. And I really want to just turn to run, but I'm afraid that if I run, it's gonna see me turn my back and come at me. So I'm still backing up further, quicker. Then all of a sudden, the brush off to me rattles again. And I spin around again thinking something's going to flank me a second time. And this time there's a huge rock. It's got to be half the size of a bowling ball. Comes rolling out of the trees. And I realize whatever this thing is throwing rocks. And I mean not little rocks. These are big rocks. I mean a person couldn't throw a rock that far. And this is a rock. Comes rolling out of the trees at my feet. And I'm going, whatever this son of a gun is throwing boulders at me. So at this time I seen this throwing boulders at me. And I don't see it giving any chase, so I just turn, I grab my rifle, and I go running. And I hope that when I get down there, my friend is waiting for me down there in that pickup, and he hadn't hauled ass to town, which is what I'm afraid. So I'm running down there, and I never been so happy to see a blue pickup in my whole life. That old blue pickup was sitting there running. He was sitting there. And I didn't waste any time, man. I just kept running down there, and I grabbed my gun and I jumped in that thing. And I don't even know if we even spoke leaving that thing, man. It was like, now he didn't see, he didn't see as much as I did, I sat there, this thing kept, when he took off, it hadn't quite got to that last tree to where you could get a good look at his shoulders and arms like I did. So his story is a little bit different than mine, but my story, I seen that thing moving from side to side, and it was several years later. There's a movie came out called Gorillas in the Mist, and there's one of them big silverback gorillas was moving its head from side to side, hiding behind a tree, and it sent cold chills in my back because that gorilla was doing the same thing I saw this thing doing. Like it was looking around that tree with its right eye, and then it would go to the left side of the tree and look around with its left eye, and I was like, whatever this thing, it was very gorilla-like. And I was at a little paranormal conference down here in Granbury, Texas, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. He's a Texas Bigfoot hunter. You've heard of him. He wears that big leather hat. He's on TV a lot. And I told him the story, and he found me later and called me over, and he showed me a picture. He said when. Because what happened, I tried to get my buddy to go. I really wanted to go back to this area, and I wanted to get a bigger gun and go back. My friend, he didn't want no part of it. He didn't want to go down there. But I wasn't about to go down there by myself. So it took me about 3 or 4 days to finally convince him to let's get some deer rifles and go back down here and do some further investigating of what this thing is. And if we confront it again, maybe things would be a little different. So 4 days later, we went back down there, and we had deer rifles this time instead of 22s. And I went down there, and I found this branch that this thing had tore off. And we looked for tracks, but this old ground was so hard-baked that it wouldn't hardly leave a track. It wouldn't leave much of a track anyway. It's just hard-baked by this Texas sun down here. It was so hard baked it wasn't going to leave any kind of a track. I didn't really get the kind of tracks I had hoped to find. We went over to where the branch was tore off, and there was a branch. It was a huge branch tore off a mesquite tree. Now, these mesquite trees are tough. You ever tried to tear a small branch off one, you know how much strength it takes just to pull a small branch off. Well, this thing had pulled a huge branch off this mesquite tree. And then it had taken that mesquite limb and it had twisted the smaller limbs around it like a baseball bat that was probably 6 feet long. And so I was like, whatever it did is just took that limb and just twisted it and just stripped that limb, the smaller limb, to the point where there wasn't any thorns or leaves or nothing on it. It was just a vine wrapped around the big stem of the branch. And anyway, so I went down this paranormal, and I told that Bigfoot hunter about that, and he found me later, and he showed me a picture. He said, "Did that branch you found that it tore off, did it look like this?" And he had a picture that looked just like it. There's something that tore a branch off and it twisted the vine around it. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That almost looks like exactly the same branch that was laying there." And he said, "Well, he got this off another case," and he said it seems to be something they do, they like they said. But while we were there, I said, well, we didn't. I went up in the trees where we heard the first roar, and there's a hill there, and there was a rock that was kind of buried in the hill, and it was kind of an undercut underneath it, like it was almost, it wasn't a cave, but it was kind of like a overhang. And I had looked in there, and this thing was stacked with mesquite branches, dried mesquite branches, and all the thorns had been taken off. It's like meticulously taken off. You couldn't find a thorn on any of that stuff. It looked like something had took the time to pick every thorn off every branch, and then had just stacked them in there. And it would almost made like a nice bed up underneath this rock overhang that something had made in there. And I was like, there's no way running water or anything like that could have washed all them branches up in there. It's almost like whatever this thing was had made it a nice little bed up underneath there. And like it was probably just going to hang out there and eat some frogs for a while. So. But we were like just amazed at this thing, that we encountered this thing. My friends to this day, Eve don't much talk about it. I told the story for a long time, and nobody gave me the time of day or believe it or anything, So it was years had went by, and I just stopped telling it. Nobody believed it. Yeah, nobody would believe anything you said back then. It was like, well, you got no proof, you got no pictures, you got no dead carcass, you got, And so I just quit telling the story. But I'm a UFO experiencer, and I was at the Roswell UFO Festival, and I found a couple of other people there, and I thought that is pretty cool, to sit here with another UFO experiencer, alien experiencer, be in the same room with them. Because it's pretty rare for that to happen. Then to get to actually spend time with some of these people. Well, I don't know what had happened, but somehow or another Bigfoot had come in the conversation. And I said, well, actually, I'm one of those guys. I've seen a not only did I see a UFO, not only did I encounter an alien, at one point in my life I did see a Bigfoot. I saw the Bigfoot way before I ever seen my first UFO. Years before I ever seen my first UFO, I had that Bigfoot experience. And then the other two people said they're UFO experiencers. They had Bigfoot sightings as well. And I thought, man, both of you, how rare is it that someone sees a UFO? How rare is it that someone that's seen a UFO actually sees a Bigfoot? And how rare that three of such people would end up in the same room and having a conversation? So I'm like, there's got to be more to this than just coincidence. And so we're sitting there talking to these people, and I'm like realizing, well, on a show called Monster Castle Paranormal show, Wolfman Mike is a buddy of mine, and he had a guy on there. And he told me, he said, man, you got to hear this new guy, this guy named Bruce May. This guy named Bruce May. He's an Anunnaki. And he claims to be an Anunnaki, like, I don't know. It was like they had cloned somebody that was Anunnaki, and they said when he was a kid, his parents had to literally cut the tips off his ears so he'd appear normal. And this guy, he said when he turned 7 years old, he had total recall of all the different lives he had lived and different planets he had lived on. And part of his experience was, he said that in his home planet, the Anunnaki had rescued a bunch of the gray aliens that people see all the time, and they had allowed them to live on their planet, and they had chosen to live underground where they wouldn't bother anybody, and they had cities and stuff underground, and supposedly everybody had got along great, and they said they completely trusted them, helped them every way in the world they could. And he said, out of the blue, one day, he said the ground erupted, and these huge shafts came sticking up out of the ground, and just thousands and thousands of these gray aliens came pouring out, and they had weapons, and they just declared war on them and took over their planet. He said, but not only were the little gray aliens with these powerful weapons, he said they had these big feet, these Bigfoot creatures that came up, and they were the muscle to the Greys. he said that they worked together, they're part of the same bunch, and he said there was just this thousands and thousands of little gray aliens with guns, and these thousands and thousands of these Bigfoots that are monstrously strong and fast, and they're declaring war on this peaceful civilization, and they said they abandoned the planet and they nuked it to kill everyone. And he said this planet's Mercury. He said that was their home, and it was like, man, it'd be pretty cool to see, to go explore Mercury at some point and see if we could find any evidence of something happening like this over there. But he said they destroyed the whole planet, was what Bruce May's story was. And he talked about how the Bigfoot and the Greys were in it together, and they lived in the underground. And a lot of times I just wonder, if that ain't the true story, how these people that have seen UFOs have also encountered Bigfoot. So I think that to some degree that would explain some of this. And I find it quite amazing that, that he told this story. And, but I mean, it scared that whole sighting, this whole area was just lit up, and now, I talk to the people nowadays, they don't know anything about it. They don't have anything. I want to, just to kind of give you, I want to read another article here. This is from, let me see if I can get a better look here. This is from Tuesday, July 21st, 1964. This comes from the Abilene Reporter News. It says Caddo was ablaze last Monday night. Several residents of this former boomtown sat on their doorsteps with guns, awaiting the appearance of the critter. The critter, described by several as 7 feet tall and ape-like, failed to show up this time. Among those who sat up were Charlie Gaunt, who saw the monstrosity both Saturday and Sunday night and fired 10 shots at it. 2 new points came evident Tuesday as cattle citizens congregated at the general store and filling station to talk about the critter or ape. The people in East Stevens County were generally concerned, if not scared. Area residents began seeing the critter approximately 2 weeks before they became worried enough to report the mysterious marauder. Joe Roberts, Reporter News correspondent who visited Caddo Monday night, said that every yard was lit up with outside lights and that the populace is armed. They were setting up last night to shoot whatever it was, Miss Roberts said. No one was roaming about at night, though it's somewhat dangerous, she said. People stay on their own property. If it's a prank, it's a highly dangerous one. Someone could get killed, Miss Roberts said. Deputy Sheriff Edgar Martin, who patrolled the area Monday night with the game warden, said no doubt that they're seeing something, but we don't know what it is. The theory that the critter is an ape escaped from Possum Kingdom Lake Game Preserve has been discounted by the game caretaker there. He said he had no recollection of such an animal ever being there. A few people also have voiced that throughout that it might be a bear, but no one seems to know. One factor has been noted about the critter's wanderings. It has been sighted as early as the day as 2:30 p.m. and in the hours of the darkness at 2 a.m. So you can imagine. And back then, people don't just make up stuff. They're not just going to make up something like that and be criticized for it. Back then, your word meant something. You could be denied a loan based upon the public's opinion of you. So you're not just going to make up a wild story like that, and especially not an old rancher like Charlie Gant. This is old guy. This old guy, he was dead serious about what he had seen. He had got a good look at it, and he had shot at it several times. And he's not the kind of guy that just shoot anything crawling around. And what'd be crawling around in his house out in the middle of nowhere, and throwing rocks at his house and harassing the dogs, and it wasn't the only place. There was I think there was 70 miles from here. There was other sightings. There was one over by Holly, Texas, where there was a couple of boys working over there, and they something threw rocks at the boys and it hit the boys with rocks, and then they saw it come out of the woods, and they come out of the woods roaring at them and throwing rocks at them, and they took off, and it took off, and this was like 70 miles away, So and then down in Coleman, Texas, I think Teresa shared a story here the other day about there's a woman down in Coleman that said the blacks had gotten off in her garden. They live way out in the middle of the country, and the blacks had went out there and stole vegetables out of her garden. She watched them from her kitchen window. But the problem is in Coleman County at that time, they probably didn't have a handful of blacks, and they certainly weren't going to be out in the middle of nowhere trying to steal vegetables out of a garden. And even her husband admitted that, and he said whatever it was upright on 2 feet, and there were several of them. It was like a whole family of them. And they said 2 great big ones, and then some smaller ones, and they were just helping themselves to a vegetable garden out there. So, you get all these sightings out here, and in this whole area, people seeing stuff, but they don't know what it is, So it was a pretty wild encounter, and the encounter is kind of dying because people just don't talk about it anymore, and a lot of people around here don't know about it, So it's fun to bring it back up from time to time, and that buddy that I used to trap with, he's actually working down in there, and he's working on there's a big ranch down there now. And he actually lives down there and works down there every day. And I talked to him here the other day, and I've asked, it's almost like he's tried to block that out of his mind. It's almost like he don't want to have to deal with it, But I'm going to corner him at some point, and I'm going to make him talk about it. It's like he don't want to remember it. He don't want to talk about it. It's something you can't forget. I mean, I can't forget it. But it's funny, I talk about it all the time, and I almost did forget it.
Well, where are you? Are you at a big cafe or restaurant or bar? Or I heard people clapping when you started. Where did you go somewhere? You not in your house?
No. I'm here. I just got a bunch of guests over here tonight listening to the show.
At your house?
Yes.
So this is the Ronny Dawson show at his house.
Yeah.
Dawson Radio.
Over here listening to the show live. And then some of that squawking you hear is we got us a new parrot, and he's trying to chime in sometime too.
Cool. Well, you said you did that sometimes on Saturday, so I guess you can keep this up. Well, that's good. Well, it'll be right here. TJ Morris ET Radio has been around for 8 years, but we've got UAP Associates, but I'll put this on ACIR Radio too. And this goes out all over. I pay extra to get it out distributed, on Spotify. Spreaker will have it up, and it'll even be on YouTube, Ronnie. So I sent you a little email, but, people can go back and listen to your stories, even on up there on YouTube. So I'll have to figure out which ones they go to. American, let's see, I think yours goes to UAP.associates or UAP Associates, and some of them go out on American Communications Online Broadcasting. So, but we'll get it all figured. They can just put your name in, and you ain't going to believe this, and it'll probably make a list because I checked it out.
Well, I'm running out of stories to tell.
Well, ask some of your people to come over to your, or just pass yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was telling them. I'm going to start dragging people over here on the mic. Tell some stories.
Well, whatever you want to do, I'll. Janet came on, but you was in the middle of a story, so she left. So she figured you had it covered. So she didn't even know you had people at your house that could help you too. But that's good, because if you run out of one or need a break or water, just pass it over, and then when you get ready, grab it back like President Trump does. He always gets the mic back. All right, well, I'll mute.
Yeah, I got a lot of people
here.
Job. Scaredy cats. Yeah, they're scaredy cats.
Yeah, you got 2 hours. Well, you got 1 hour and 11 minutes left. So remember, I told you the way I got this job back with Revolution, I talked 2 hours by myself. It's still out there on YouTube. You can find it. So, all right. Well, I'm on mute again. So you speak.
Thank you. I'll see if I can get some of these guys to come over here. Which one of y'all wants to come on the air? Come on, Jared. We're live on Blog Talk Radio.
Well, tell them what they can do is just tell us their name and where they're from, like I do my psychic reading stories or UFO interviews or author nights. If they write a book, if they're an author. But if they're just a truck driver or whatever, but it's we know that you ain't gonna believe this.
Yeah, these people are shy.
They're shy.
They're afraid to be famous. Yeah.
Well, just tell them to use their first name, and we know they're at Texas at your house, so ain't nobody gonna come looking, unless you got a local Dairy Queen where they know or something. But unless you tell them where you're at on YouTube or out on the internet, they're not gonna go hunting for them. But it is fun to have them live so people can.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we might have some people pop in here in a little while.
Yeah, well, just tell them from time to time if they think of one, and they can go back and hear their voice. Tell them in the beginning, when they're first new, is the best time to get on because it's fun. They'll get used to hearing their voices out there on the radio or, where I post it on Facebook or, it just goes out all over. Spotify, Stitcher, FM radio, all kind of podcasting out there. iTunes, what's the Heart? They've heard of.
Yeah, we do got somebody. We got Evie Kisner with us. She is the head cheerleader of Ranger High School. And she was the girl that we were telling you about that got shoved across the floor last week in the paranormal experience. Yeah, remember we were talking about the old woman that had lived here in the house, and she died right over by that window. And actually, we got some people sitting right over where the old woman had died right now. They're kind of freaking out, like, oh, my God. And they're looking at us strange.
Well, good. Ghost stories are good stories. We like ghost stories, but tell them, just
and anyway,
fun.
They said, well, the old woman likes everybody here, but it doesn't like this one girl named Evie Kisner. And we did, and Evie was sitting there with her legs crossed on this coffee table. And she said, well, I don't like her either. Screw her. And then all of a sudden, we seen her go flat across the floor. And it's pretty rare that we just happen to have her with us here tonight. So we can get straight from her what it felt like to get. Okay, come on in here, Evie. What was you thinking right before that happened? I mean, we were talking about the old woman. Do you feel like the old woman doesn't like you?
Yes.
Why do you think she doesn't like you?
Because she pushed me off the table.
That's pretty obvious, but do you feel like she generally stays at the house and do you ever see shadows moving or anything weird here at the house?
I hear knocking on my closet.
Knocking on your closet?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, just out of the blue?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I didn't tell you, the room you're sleeping in, I actually seen shadow figures before. So I never told you that until now.
That's great.
But you were sitting there, we were talking about the old woman said she didn't like you, and then you said something very rude towards the old woman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember exactly what that was?
I said that, what did I say? Oh.
Try not to cuss.
Yeah, no, it wasn't very nice.
It was like, screw you, or something like that. Screw that old bitch out there, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I just felt like I really don't know how to explain it.
Did it feel like you were shoved, or did it feel like you just exploded off of it?
No, it was definitely a shove.
It was like something just shoved you off the spot you were sitting and you slid across the floor. How far did you slide across the floor?
How far do you think that is?
God, it's like 15 feet. It's like 15 feet. Did it hurt you? Did it bruise you?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't hurt. Did it feel like it was a pinpoint shove, or like it just hit your whole body, side of your body?
It hit like the middle of my chest.
Oh, the middle of your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And just like boom, across the floor you went flying.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Have you ever had anything like that happen before?
Nope.
No?
Mm-mm.
Nothing since, huh?
No.
So how do you feel about the old woman now that she shoved you like that? Do you like her now?
No.
Or no? Are you afraid of her?
Yes and no.
Do you feel like it's an evil entity?
No, but I feel like when she's antagonized, she can be.
Oh, like
rude.
she can do more than just be a ghost. Like she can do cold.
Well, how do
Yeah, go ahead.
you
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you. I say I can hear you, but I'm not hearing anything. Sound like you're trying to do something.
I'm
Do you
sorry.
have any questions for Evie?
You got New York. I turned New York on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. New York, did you want to say hi to Ronnie, or you got a story for him?
I like Teresa. Is Teresa Morris available?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, she's available.
Teresa.
Hey, we're telling stories. This is Ronny Dawson. Is this Anna from New York? Anna.
Yes, it is. How are you?
Hi, Anna. What are you doing today? Ronnie's got this new show out of Texas. He's got a lot of people over his house, and they're telling all kind of stories. But glad to hear you, Anna, that you showed up today out of New York, folks. This is Anna. She's been around a long time, about 8 years.
Hey.
Well,
yeah.
good. Get out with us.
Yeah, exactly. Just having some fun with you. What are you guys talking about today?
We have a girl with us, Evie Kisner, who experienced a poltergeist shoving. We had a ghost actually shoved her across the living room floor in front of six.
Stop
And
right
we're quizzing her about that. So, y'all have any questions y'all would like to ask her about what it's like to be attacked by a paranormal entity?
No way. I don't believe in that. Sorry, I'm going to hang up now.
She didn't believe in it either.
I'm going to hang up now.
Okay, Anna, love you. Call us on Thursdays. That's your type of show.
Yeah, this is too far-fetched.
Okay, call us back. Okay, bye-bye. It's too far-fetched
That's
for her.
why we call it, You Ain't Gonna Believe This.
I know it. It's not for everybody. But you know what? She calls in on psychic, and she likes to have her cards read, and she's a pretty cool chick. I like her a lot. So she's been with me a long time. Very.
Well, I've noticed that, a lot of the Bigfoot people, they don't want to, they don't believe in ETs and stuff. And,
I know,
a lot of
funny.
paranormal people, they don't believe in Bigfoot. So it's kind of like
it's really
you
interesting.
You got 3 different groups, and none of them believe in the other.
I know, it's amazing. There's probably plenty more than that. So I don't know, paranormal is sort of the big holding thing. But, folks, we have different days for different things, and I sort of think this one's fun, like sitting around a campfire back when I was a kid, or going to Girl Scouts. And we were trained that way, sit around fire and stay out in the woods and tell ghost stories, But then I know it does make some people feel weird because it makes the hair go up on the back of their head, or some of the primitive neuropsychological conditions that, we're very primitive in these biological skin or meat suits, right? So we get it, and that's part of us because we have that part of our brain that keeps us alive, for all these many, many millions of years. And, so we like to find out things, and I think it's fun. But, well, Ronnie, you keep going. Remember Burr Rabbit. I always compare it to, we can do the Fae Magic, too. There's a lot of shows. We could talk about television shows. There's Supernatural out there, and, all kind of paranormal ghost shows, and spooked houses, spooked hotels, New Orleans, all kind of places. But this show has a lot of potential. But Anna, if you're still listening, I see you're still on. But we got this from the idea really of I used to drive a truck coast to coast, Anna, and along the trucks we'd get bored and we'd have to keep each other up.
Right. Yeah,
and we'd get on our CBs and we'd tell stories, and then when we'd go into the truck stop, we'd have to eat something, and then we'd sit together and you ain't gonna believe this. So that's where that came from. But Ronnie, apparently Mel Tillis used to do something, because when I pulled up your name on Google to see if our show showed, like our past 2 or 3 shows, it has You Ain't Gonna Believe This, Ronny Dawson, of course my radio show, TJMorrisET Radio, and it had Mel Tillis listed with 2 or 3 things. So he must have used to do this stand-up comedy. Mel Tillis. You remember him, don't you?
Yeah. I love Mel Tillis' music, yeah.
Yeah, so whenever you Google this, folks, you may see Mel Tillis listed with Ronny Dawson and Teresa J. Morris or TJ Morris ET Radio. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to you. But, Anna, you're welcome to listen. But we're going to do stories just because it helps. It's American culture, folks. It may be around the world, but fire telling stories.
Yeah, the other day I got friended by Calvin Parker. He's the witness in the Pascagoula UFO. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's Calvin Parker. They friended me. And here a while back, Stephen Greer friended me on LinkedIn. And Stephen Greer, he's pretty picky about who he lets in his circle. So I thought that was a pretty cool deal. So maybe people are starting to figure out who I am exactly.
Well, good.
And, but talk about
your radio there too. It does.
Yeah, I talked about my UFO, my Bigfoot experience there, and let me tell you something that happened years later that just shocked me. Okay, I was hauling crude oil. Okay, I was hauling crude oil, and they'd sent us out of town, and I had to go out to Carlsbad, New Mexico, and work for 2 weeks. I mean, when we other areas get behind, they would send drivers out, and we'd have to live out of a motel for a couple of weeks, and it really sucks because you don't know where the oil's at, and you're having to drive around sometimes at night. You're trying to find stuff in the dark, and you don't know where any of the main highways are, much less the back roads that lead to some of these storage tank batteries out in the middle of God knows where. And so I was working out of town, out in Carlsbad, and I had to work the night shift. And it's frustrating because you're running around out there in the dark, and this old truck didn't have very many work lights on it. I mean, you had to have a flashlight to see where you're going, and then you got to watch out for snakes and animals and find where you're going and not wreck the truck. And so I'm out there, and I finally got my load of oil coming on. I want to walk around my truck to check the tires, make sure I ain't got a flat, because I've been driving through some wild country. So I started walking around my truck, kicking the tires. Well, I walked around the back of my truck, and there are pitiful lights back there, and the flashlight I had was trying to go dead, so I didn't have much of a flashlight either. So I'm walking around the back of that truck basically in the dark, and I bumped into something big and hairy, and my face hit this hair, and whatever this thing was stopped me dead in my tracks. I mean, I was walking, I was 250 pounds, and whatever it was stopped me dead in my tracks, and I felt this big coarse hair on my face. Well, I always thought I'd be a good soldier if I ever got recruited or something like that, but what happened to me, this shock scared me so bad that my knees started shaking, and I wanted to run, but I couldn't. So I'm basically wobbling back to my truck shaking because whatever I walked into stopped me dead in my tracks. So whatever it is big. I'm 6 feet tall, and it's bigger than me because it was taller than me, and this hair hit my face, and I just stumbled backwards, and I walked back to the truck is shaking. And I got back in the cab. Once I got back in the cab of the truck, I was mad at myself, going, you big old chicken, you should go back there and see what it was. And so I started looking around there, and I get my lights at work, I change the batteries out, get a brighter light, and I go back out there. I grab my 24-inch pipe wrench, and I'm ready to go do battle with whatever's at the back of my truck. So I go walking back there with this flashlight, and I got this paprika in my head, and I'm thinking, man, there's a Bigfoot back there or something, because I've seen a Bigfoot earlier in my life, you know. So I don't know. And I walked back there, and I turned the back of that truck, and I shine my light on, and it's got the biggest horse I've ever seen. and its butt's sitting right there in the middle of my bumper, and I walked right into the ass of that thing. I walked right into that horse's butt. And it's a miracle that thing didn't kick me. But that coarse hair that I felt was his tail. I walked right into the ass of this big old horse. And I thought, okay, thank God it wasn't Bigfoot, you know. But it just goes to show, you know, how when I get really scared, when something scares you, my knees go to shaking. And that's the first time that ever happened to me like that. And it's kind of frustrating when you're wanting to run and you're thinking clear, but your legs don't want to work. And that happened to me back in my UFO sighting in March 2nd of 2011. Because when I was sitting there at that tank battery and I was watching them UFO lights, when I finally seen that UFO coming towards that tank battery, and I was going, oh my God, I got to do something. I got to get out of here or something like that. And I went down and hid below the tanks, and everything was working right. And when I looked up and seen the edge of that disc blocking out the stars overhead as it was moving over me, my legs did the same thing it did that night. My legs started this shaking thing where I could barely walk, and people were going, "Why didn't you just run?" I said, "Man, I really wanted to run. I really wanted to run bad, but there wasn't no running. My legs wouldn't. I mean, I could barely pull off a walk." And when I seen that disc, my legs started shaking so bad I couldn't run, and I went over and I hid behind this oil field separator, and this disc was right on top of my head. And I looked around the side of that thing, and this light come up on under this compartment underneath this thing, and it looked like something staring out of this porthole opening window that was suspended from the bottom of this disc. It had this huge white bluish light that just lit up the whole room, except for whatever was standing in the window. And I ducked back in there, and I looked around me, and I seen how dark it was, and I guarantee you that I've never been so scared in my whole life, man. I just had a feeling that something with long, slimy hands was fixing to come running out of that darkness and grab me. And I grabbed my phone, and I thought, you know what, people will never know what happened to me. And I thought, you know, I'm going to try to get a picture of the craft, and then if nothing else, I'll throw the phone if I'm attacked. You know, that'll give my wife and family a clue that something went on down here that just caused my disappearance, because I thought I wasn't going to be here that much longer. And I leaned around the corner of that separator. I didn't even bother trying to get the frame of the camera straight. And I focused it on that compartment with the light on underneath that craft, and I caught the picture. I took one picture of that camera and then put it back in my pocket and just waited for something to grab me. And that picture to this day, you know, I got a video on YouTube. It's called "Man Escapes Alien Abduction with Pictures to Prove It," and it showcases that footage that I took. We zoom in on it to get the best look that I could possibly get. I know it's a poor resolution camera, but I mean, you can see it well enough that you could tell that it's something very odd, not something you're just going to come across out in the middle of the oil field at night. And after taking that picture, the craft backed away, and I never felt so relieved in my whole life that when that craft started backing away. It started backing away from my location, and I thought, my God, thank God. I thought I was going to get taken or something, and they backed away, and that thing backed off out there about 200 yards. All the lights just went out on it, and it's still sitting there. And all of a sudden, I could hear a roar of a jet. Well, this jet, it's like a F-16. I could hear it coming, and it's getting louder and louder. I looked up, I actually seen the craft pass like 100. It had to be like, I don't know, 200 or 300 feet. It looked like above the battery. I mean, you could hear the roar of a jet as it went right over. It went right over that battery. It went right towards that where that UFO had backed, and the lights had went out on it. And I was expecting to see a firefight or a collision. and I felt like, man, here they are. The military done spotted this thing on radar, coming here to save me. I was never so patriotic in my whole life at that point. And I thought, man, they just come in here to save my ass, save the day. And that jet didn't collide, and there wasn't a firefight. And the jet made a big sweeping circle, and that jet headed back in the direction of Dice Air Force Base. And I was like, where are you going, man? At least do a figure eight and keep looking for it or something. Don't give up so easy. And this thing wasn't even out of sight. I could still see the lights on the jet when the craft appeared back over the field. Just the craft appeared exactly where the lights had went out on it, exactly where the jet had just passed over. I have no explanation on how it can occupy the same space as the jet. The jet should have seen it. The jet should have run into it. And nothing. The jet just passed right through it or over it or around it, and the jet left. Well, this thing is backing off out there. The lights would go out. The lights would come on. And I took so many pictures with this little camera I was carrying. I had a Motorola Tundra. It was a flip phone. It was back in 2011. It was like a military-grade flip phone. And it was one of the first phones that come out that had a video capabilities as well as camera capabilities. And it was an expensive phone, and that's why I bought it, because I hadn't had much luck carrying cameras because the batteries would go dead when either the UFO drained them or the batteries would just be dead when I needed the camera to take a picture of a UFO. And the camera would work all the time. I could take a picture of anything I saw, but the first time you see a UFO and try to take a picture with it, the batteries are drained, And at one point, the camera opened up, and I still got the camera, and the battery went dead, and the camera extended lens extended all the way open, and then power just went out on that thing, and to this day, it still sits like that. I put new batteries in it. It would not work right since. It's like almost like they did something to it to disable it or something. It killed it. It stayed dead, too. So I wanted to do something with the cell phone. And the reason that I wanted to use the cell phone was because the battery is better protected. It seems like when you're around a UFO, that extra coating around the batteries or whatever they do to protect people that carry them is enough to keep the UFO from immediately draining it. So I think the cell phones are a great option for catching video footage. And as cell phones are improving and cameras are improving, I expect we will keep catching better footage. And I think some of my footage is some of the most amazing footage that you'll ever see anywhere. And if you want to see it, you can just simply type in Ronny Dawson UFO on Google. And you'll see a lot of the pictures that I've taken with my cell phone of that night, that happened that night, right there on the Google. So you don't have to worry about getting spammed or anything else. And I like the way Google's really helped me out. They put me right there. You type in, there's a rockabilly guitar player named Ronny Dawson, so you have to make sure you don't get on none of his stuff. But you can type in Ronny Dawson, RONNY DAWSON UFO, and you can see right there on Google all the pictures that I've taken will come up right there, and you can just look at it right there on Google Images. And that's the way I like to tell people, just check it out there, because I have so much stuff. Because after the jet went away, there was this group of lights that was circling over that location, and they circled around for about 10 minutes, and it seemed like they were spiraling down. And as this thing spiraled down, I started looking at my camera, and I looked at that memory, and I was like, man, I have taken so many pictures of stupid lights out in the darkness because I was just so excited to actually get some UFO pictures. And MUFON had been, telling me, Ronny, you're following so many UFO reports, but you never had a picture. You never have a picture. So, yeah, I was like under pressure, like, okay, if you're seeing this stuff, you need to prove it. And I really wanted to prove it. And I know people are like me, I want to see some evidence. Show me something. Show me some proof that you saw something, If you're there and you saw it and you have a phone, get a picture of it, But it's harder than you think because, I've had craft up close and personal, man, like 200 yards away, and I'm getting a good look at rotating lights that are rotating around a disc. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be the perfect UFO video. So I grab that camera off the dash of my truck and jump out and I fling this thing open, and I'm ready to hit it. And this thing is almost like you're watching them, but they're watching you back because, this thing tilted, and it just disappeared. And so it was very difficult to get a picture. So when I finally got the opportunity that night to get some pictures, man, I got so many pictures of stupid lights over the field. Well, I didn't know it was going to get any better. I would have saved some space where I could have caught a few more videos and stuff like that. But these lights, they were spiraling around that location. They were spiraling down, and they were getting to the point they were getting close. And I had the camera ready, and I went around the back side of the truck. I stopped the loading process and shut everything down so I wouldn't have to worry about running my truck over. So I stopped the loading process. I went around the other side of my truck where I could get a good picture of this thing, and I could see this thing spiraling in. And as it was spiraling in, the clouds, it looked like a fog bank in the sky above me. Just the sky started changing colors, and it looked foggy almost in this one area, except for this. And it had this weird light. There was a group of lights about this thing, but the weirdest light was right on the very tip of it. The leading edge of it had the most weird flash you ever saw. It would be like flash, 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 pause, flash, flash, pause. And it wasn't anything like a repeating light like you'd see on an aircraft. And I thought, well, that's the oddest flash pattern I've ever seen. Well, this was the first thing I seen. It was coming out of the fog, and this light was flashing this weird pattern. And all of a sudden I could see it looked like an arrow tip coming out of the fog. And I'm thinking, what in the world is this? And then I see this light, what I've been calling a light, is actually something hot. And it's reacting to the air passing over it. And it has this weird flash pattern like you've never seen, that this thing is just flash, 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 then pause, flash, and then you can see a little bit of sparks and stuff fly off of it. And I'm like, okay, that's not a light. That is something hot that's reacting to the wind passing over it. Well, this thing, I'm thinking, well, this thing has to be, it has to be completely out at some point. It looks like it's going to be V-shaped craft, but it just keeps coming. It keeps coming out of the fog, and it keeps coming out of the fog. And then finally, I'm realizing, man, this thing, what I thought was going to be something fairly small or a group of something, this thing is monstrous, man. I mean, this is giant craft. This thing, and it ended up being a V-shaped craft. Each half of the V is a half mile long. And you can't picture what something this big looks like passing over your head. I mean, I've seen some B-52s and stuff like that fly over, and I've been to air shows, and I ain't never seen anything this big. This thing looked like it went 100 yards on both sides of me. It was passing slowly over me, and you can hear this in the video that I took. And you can't even see the craft yet because I'm thinking I'm taking a picture, but I've actually got a video running, and I'm not even pointing the camera at it yet. So all you hear the sound of the truck engine change as this thing's passing over. It's almost like the barometric pressure of the area change. This thing's passing over. I'm looking up. I'm seeing like craters and hit burn marks, and it looks like impact marks. Like it looks more like the surface of the moon than it does anything you can imagine. I mean, there's huge impact craters on it, burn marks, solid rock. It looks to be solid rock, not metal, solid rock. And this thing is and it's got a spear tip. Is the first thing I see. The other part of the V is a good ways over. And I actually couldn't even tell that it was a V-shaped craft until it went away from me and then came back and made a half a circle later. I looked over there and I could see, man, it looked like it was a mile away. I could still see the bottom of the craft. I was thinking it was just one huge monster craft, but it's later I found out you could see the V. At one point it tilted just enough that I could see the V instead of it being one solid cigar-shaped craft. And this thing just kept passing over me. And at this point, I was thinking, maybe this is not a UFO. Maybe this is a meteor. My God, maybe this is some kind of a giant meteor. Well, I just survived a UFO that came in there to try to abduct me. Here it is 10 minutes later. Now I'm fixing to have to survive a damn meteor strike. So at this point, I'm just pretty shook up going, my God, what next? Is this a meteor? This thing looks like a meteor. Except all of a sudden this thing passes over me and it appears to be slowing down. I'm like, okay, meteors do not slow down. Then I seen a huge pipe-like structure coming out of the rock on the bottom of it. And I'm going, okay, well, meteors don't have pipe structures coming out of the bottom of them. So I'm thinking this has to be a mothership. You know, there's no doubt that I just seen a UFO. This is the mothership, part of the same bunch. And this thing is slowing down. And then the first part of it that passed over me, now all of a sudden it starts pendulating up. It starts rising up. The front part of it, you have to realize it's half a mile away. The front part of it starts pendulating up. Now, this thing is shooting up in the air like a skyscraper. I mean, you have to figure a half mile. I don't know how tall the Empire State Building is. I don't know if it's a half mile tall, but this thing, 5,000, a mile is 5,400 feet. So, yeah, 2,500 feet. This thing is rising up in the air now like a skyscraper. It's like a 2,500-foot skyscraper out in the middle of central Texas, This thing is rising up in the air. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm looking at my camera. I'm looking at my display screen, and it's not. I know I've got to get a picture of this thing, but I want it to be a good picture. I want it to be something that has some merit. I want it to be something that has some weight. I'm running out of space, and I know it. And it's got to be good. I'm looking at the display screen, and what I'm seeing is not worthy of taking a picture of. I mean, you would see it, but you wouldn't have any idea what the hell it was. Somebody could just say I was taking a picture of a rock in the dark. So I'm looking for that amazing shot. I'm watching it. This thing, all of a sudden, it pendulates up, and then it stops going upward, and it's just hanging in the sky. I mean, something this big just hanging there, not making a sound, not dropping in height. I mean, just hanging in the sky. All of a sudden, this thing starts to move. It made the smoothest transition you could ever imagine. I mean, it made a 90-degree turn, and it was so smooth. It actually slowed to a stop, and as soon as it stopped, it started going the other way, slowly and smoothly. And then it just started accelerating so rapidly that once it changed direction, that it was just unimaginable. The jet didn't have anything on the speed that this thing took off. I mean, this thing is right here over North Central Texas. I filed a FAA low craft report over this sighting, and the FAA, they did their little investigation, and we had a phone conference meeting, and they told me that all known aircraft in that area were accounted for, and that I should report my UFO, the term they described what I was looking at, to Newfork, National UFO Reporting Center. And they give me Newfork's number to report this thing. And it's like, okay, so I don't know what it is. And apparently the FAA don't know what it is either. But if a mile-long craft can come into North Central Texas and fly within 1,000 feet over the surface of the Texas ground, that's supposed to be what we call our airspace, unprovoked, undetected, and it's like, well, whose airspace is it really? It certainly isn't ours. If something like this can come flying in, and this thing, it took off so smooth, so fast. I mean, the next thing you know, this thing is blitzing away. Now, I still haven't taken my opportunity to catch a picture yet, so I'm starting to panic. I'm going, my God, the way this thing is moving, I may miss the shot altogether. If it keeps going that fast and accelerating that speed, it's going to be out of sight in no time, even as big as it is. So I'm starting to panic a little bit. And I'm looking at my display screen, and there's complete blackness. There's nothing. This craft is huge in the sky to the naked eye. You couldn't miss it if you were there. You couldn't help but to see it. It's over the trees everywhere. It's filling the whole sky. The biggest part of the sky at times is full of the craft, and there's no doubt that anybody could see it if you were there. And I'm looking at my camera, and it's showing me a black display screen, and my heart just sinks because I'm thinking, my God, this is the most amazing sight that anyone had ever seen in the history of man, and I'm not going to have any evidence to prove it whatsoever. The opportunity of a lifetime is fixed to be blown, and my heart just sank. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to let this thing get away. I'm going to point out the camera at it, and I'm going to take my shot. And I'm going to be steady. I'm going to be still. I'm going to try to get the best shot I can. So I'm aiming my camera. I'm steadying myself. Well, all of a sudden, this thing does something I did not expect it to do, and it did it at such speed, I can't imagine how it could even do it. But this thing did an absolute flip. I was looking at the bottom of it. It flipped. It flipped in the air and did a 90-degree turn, and it was coming straight back to me, almost like a boomerang. It went, and then all of a sudden it came back. It started coming back. But this time at the bottom of it flipped away from me, and for the first time I could see the top of this thing. And the top of this thing was a V-shaped craft, and it had, you could see structure on the top of it. You could see towers. You could see lights. I could see a fluorescent glowing blue power line looking thing that was growing this bright blue neon light that stretched across the surface of it like a power line. And I could see these odd structured buildings. I could see a huge tower that had the largest light source on the whole craft on it. I could see a row of burning flares. It was like these giant jetting flares that were like shooting this large burst of, like they were burning like a refining process or something. They weren't jets like propelling anything. They were just burning some kind of flammable material and blowing it across the top of the craft. I don't know if it's for, man, it may be for making clouds, or something like that. I don't know what it was doing. You could even see the smoke stream from the fire that this thing is, whatever's burning is kicking out some smoke. And you could see in some of the pictures I took there on Google that you could see the smoke stream on this thing where it's burning. And like I said, I took this picture from a mile away, and it did its flip. And I clicked my camera. Well, this thing, I got the picture of the top of this thing, thank goodness, in my video. And it drops a little bit. It starts coming back at me, and my camera took the video. It's like 15 seconds of footage. I caught the left half of the V and the top part of the craft. I got on top of the craft, I've got the buildings, the structures, and stuff like that. It's all caught on this piece of video. And like I said, this video it's not a great video. But what we've been doing as of late was we started breaking this video down into still frames and using some of the best software that we can find. And here in, I think in about 2006, I went from 7 still frames that were just terrible to 26 still frame images. And those still frame images, what I thought might happen did happen. I was looking for that sweet spot in the video where the camera's eye, the camera's lens, the lighting, and the movement and everything. And I was looking for that clear picture, that needle in the haystack of a blurry video. And that's exactly what we found. I found there's several areas in there when the camera's eye was just at the right place, and certain parts of the craft come really clearly into view, and you can really see what's there. And what's there is very odd. You can't say this thing is secret space program. This thing looks like it's never been touched by human hand. I mean, just the way the buildings are, they look like something that you might find on the ocean floor. I mean, this thing may have been underwater. I don't know. I mean, it almost looks like coral on the surface of the buildings. Look like they have a coral coating on them almost. And like big 2- or 3-story buildings just stacked tightly together. And so I started looking. I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking through the still frames, and I'm trying to find stuff that you just, and some of the stuff I found was, I found this, the first thing we come up, there's this lady on YouTube actually saw it before I did, and she started pointing out, hey man, there's this big 4-legged creature there on the snow. What? And kind of crackpot am I talking to here? I mean, I'm looking for alien artifacts, I'm looking for machinery, I'm looking for anything that I can identify, and I got someone telling me there was a creature on the surface of this thing, and I'm like, right, and then finally I had to tell them, okay, I ain't gonna doubt you. I'm just saying, can you circle the part, because this is like a big craft, and this is a big picture, and there's a lot in it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what she's telling me is big. I don't know where it's located. I'm like, tell me what you're seeing, where you're seeing it. So she drew a circle around it, And I looked at that, and I zoomed in on it, and I got some clear pictures that nobody had ever seen yet, and I zoomed in it, and I'm like, oh, my God, what in the world is that? You know, I've been staring at these pictures for years and never saw it because I wasn't looking for creatures. I was looking for alien artifacts and stuff like that, machinery, stuff like that. And I never looked for a creature. There's this, it looks like a dog looking, like a pit bull looking creature. And you can see the muscle in its legs. You can see the tail on the thing. And it's got this weird head. It's got this big flat face, 2 horns like a bull on it with a flat face that almost looks like a damn snake. And I just, man, to this day, I'm just kind of blown away as to what this was, you know. And then I heard about the Skinwalker Ranch thing where they were talking about the big wolf-like creature, and I'm going, holy cow. You know, I may just have a picture of what those guys seen over there that they didn't manage to get a picture of, you know. And I thought, well, you know, maybe it's just, but, you know, I can't tell you that it's not, maybe it's like a sculpture. Maybe it's a sculpture. Maybe it's some kind of a sculpture. And then I thought, man, you know, maybe this is like a zoo. Maybe these guys are going around different planets and gathering stuff up and putting it in a zoo or something. And maybe this thing is a hostage for somewhere else. And I thought, well, you know, they give me a good hard look, and they realized that I'd be too much of a pain in the ass to take care of. They didn't want to mess with it. I don't know why they didn't want me, but they could have been that they looked at me and decided I'd be too much trouble to take care of and didn't want to mess with the hassle. So I'm thinking, well, what else is on this thing? So we've been looking at this, and I'm brightening the image up so you can see it a little bit better. I'm not doing any, you know, and I've had people vet this video to pieces. I mean, the American Skeptic Society one time asked me if they could do a debate on it, and I gave them permission to, and sent them all the original videos and and images and stuff. And I guess they looked at it and they come up and they tested it and they did everything they could think, and they said, well, yeah, it's kind of undecided either way, you know. They couldn't really disprove it, and that was the whole point of using it, I guess. But so I've had a lot of people vet this footage, and they can tell you that it's not manipulated by any software or anything like that. I don't even own Photoshop, much less knowing how to use it. But I'm sitting there thinking, you know, if this thing's on there, what else could be on there? So I'm looking at the dark reaches of this thing, and we add some brightness to it, and I keep trying different software to get this thing cleared up. And I finally found some that worked amazingly good. And I'm like, wow, you know, this is some of the best images I've seen. I said, well, let's brighten it up and look into some areas I haven't got to see yet. And when I did, I see there's this thing over, I don't even know what to call it until I started really working on it to add some brightness to it and some contrast to it where you could see it better. And then once I did see it, what it is just completely baffling. This thing is 40 feet tall. It has to be. I recorded this video at a mile away. This thing has to be 40 feet tall as a tall telephone pole, towering over the craft surface. It looks completely insect, and you can see it well enough that you can even see the insect mouth on it. You can see that this thing has long arms that stretch out of its back, that come out of its back like a spider. It looks like it's kind of got a body like a praying mantis, but the arms come out of the back of it instead of out of the chest like a praying mantis arms do. And these arms are incredibly long. This thing has such an amazing reach like nothing I've seen here. I showed this image to a zoologist, and I said, have you ever seen anything like this? And he goes, I've seen everything. He goes, but I've never seen that. He goes, where exactly did you get that? And I told him, I said I found this on top of a UFO surface. It's a V-shaped craft. It's a mile in length. Each half of the V would be a half mile long. And then the guy just kind of went quiet, you know. And he goes, I've never seen that. I said, I cannot identify that particular animal. And said, it's nothing I've ever seen. He said, and I've seen just about every insect on the planet. And he said, I've never seen anything like that. So the zoologist was blown away. but he wasn't willing to put his name out there, and I don't blame him. Be ridiculed along with me for seeing the daggum thing or believing the thing. So he didn't want his name associated with it, but he did state off the record that it was completely freaked out by whatever this thing was. And those images there on Google as well that you can see it. I think it's insectoid. It's the best. It's the biggest capture of a alien insectoid that anybody's ever produced that I've seen. I haven't seen any picture out there that's any better than this thing, and it is scary big. You know, and they want to tell you that all aliens are small and gray and have these big, cute eyes, and they're very fragile, and we could break them if we want. Well, this thing right here, both of these things actually are so big, like that dog-like creature, the size of it compared with the distance that I took that picture, this thing would have to be 40 feet long, 20 feet tall. And if it was running through your neighborhood, it would be very bad for everybody involved. This thing is a giant creature. It would be a giant creature down here on the ground. It would be huge. I can't guarantee it's a creature. Could this be a statue? Oh, both of them could be statues. Or I've even thought that maybe they could be some kind of a skin on a mechanism, like we might put a skin on a dozer to make it like a triceratops or something like that, you know. And if they fly these metallic things, and it might be something we have to do, like if we have metallic, if we fly into atmospheres that have a lot of acid and stuff like that, we may have to put a skin of some sort on our machinery. So, you know, maybe these are biomechanisms that are actually machines that have a skin like an animal. Maybe an animal they came across in their travels. Who knows? I can't begin to explain what the hell these things are, or who came up with them, or how the idea came about them, or if they're actual genuine creatures, or maybe they are creatures that they've taken from other worlds and they're going to put in some kind of a zoo somewhere out there on some planet. But those pictures are absolutely amazing. And then I thought, well, you know, there can't be any more. I'm not even, you know, I don't see any more. Well, there turned out to be, I came across a third one on that same craft. And you have to realize that this V-shaped craft, I mean, at the way it moved, we couldn't build anything like that. It would break up. Moving at that kind of speed and stopping as quick as it did, it would just break into pieces and fall to the ground. And it's a shame this thing didn't fall to the ground. This thing would be so big that you would need a golf cart to drive around it. There wouldn't be no way the government could hide it. Because, like I said, each half of the V is a half mile long. This thing, you would need a golf cart or a pickup or a Jeep or something to drive around this thing. It would be almost 2 miles in distance just to drive around this thing. And this thing would be so big on the ground, there wouldn't be any hiding it. It would just crush anything it fell on. It has this great mass and great size. You'd fly an airplane over it. You could probably see it from outer space, as big as it is. If it had fell to the ground, it came within what looked like 1,000 feet or less of the ground. So it came very close to the ground, and I could almost feel the pressure of the ground. I did not see any wind as a result of it, but it did feel like the atmospheric pressure around me changed. It felt like this thing had that fog coming off of it was like it came from outer space, and it was so cold that the change in the temperature created a fog. Just the cold surface being next to the warm air was what was causing the fog when it first came in. And it almost did feel like the temperature, it felt like it almost warmed up when this thing went over me. And the sound of the truck engine changed, and you can hear that on the video that I took. And it could explain some of the change in the pressure of the area and stuff like that. So, and this thing was, I caught that clip of video, and this thing was moving back at me. And so now I'm like, first I'm afraid I'm not going to miss a shot. Now I've caught the shot. Now this thing's coming at me. Now I'm looking back at my truck, and I'm thinking about crawling up underneath the drive wheels of the tractor to hide again. So that's how it's coming back at me now, and I'm starting to freak out again. I'm starting to get scared. So then it stops in its place, and then it slowly makes this half circle around my location. It starts accelerating upward at a 45-degree angle, and it went from being a mile-long craft flying over the surface of the ground in north central Texas to some dots moving across the sky, just like what I seen coming in earlier. And it didn't take about 2.5 seconds for that to happen. So this thing, when it took off, I mean, man, it took off big time. Something that big went from something very tiny moving across the sky in just a matter of seconds. And there's nothing out there that we got can do anything like that. It was just amazing. And I've got Mary here. Mary, would you like to say hello? No?
Hi, Mary. Mary? She says no, huh?
No.
Come on, man.
She didn't want to be
Well, it's going to stay here. So what but if you can keep it up, we'll keep the show going every Saturday for 2 hours. But if you can find people who will even come by and just share a story, it'll help you keep it going. I invited Janet, but like I said, you're in the middle of something, and she came on and stayed a few minutes and then left because I know she's got lots to do over there. But I'm sure you can figure out something. You're bound to know other people that have stories. Just invite them over, like you said on Saturday night.
I've talked to a lot of them. They're scared that being on the radio is like being on TV.
Yeah,
they're scared.
First time it is, they get used to it.
I can't tell it on the air. I can say it you in person. I can't tell it on the air. People are just scared to death.
You never know what, but we may not have heard the stories. The trick is that we want to hear things we haven't heard before, But,
right.
I mean, we've heard all the Br'er Rabbit, but, the thing is with the COVID virus, a lot of people are getting on and doing funny things just for entertainment, Have y'all been having to wear masks over there or no?
The masks have been kind of optional, but there are starting to be places now, like some of the stores won't let you in unless you have a mask on.
Wow.
I know they have to social distancing, and then they just opened Texas back up, so the restaurants are open again now, and of course the virus is taking off pretty good. But it's not quite as bad. Well, I guess we'll see here in about a month. But
did y'all ever know anybody that caught it? I never met anybody that did.
I think one of my wife's family that lives out, I think in Florida, actually got it.
Down here.
Some distant kin of hers has it, but that's the only person. We only have 5 cases in our county. 5 cases.
Oh, you did have 5 cases. So you know who they are? Are they real? I mean, one thing about reporting for real is finding out the real truth, not just hearsay, right? Because hearsay is not submissible in court, but they expect us to believe the news. Just know because it was hearsay,
Well, we've got a lot of friends that work up at the hospital, and there are some cases of it. They're just not a lot. It's not as bad as they had made it sound like it's going to be. So the nurses have all been.
Yeah. Well, even that kind of story, if you want to just do some reporting sometime, just cite your sources like a good journalist. I'm a member of SPJ, Society of Professional Journalists. So, if people don't want to tell a funny story or something based on their own personal experiences, they may want to talk about, something people just want to talk about. But anyway, we have the time set aside just for you, Ronnie. So, and you ain't gonna believe this, which I think is a good topic, and Janet liked it too. You just can't run out of material because the one thing radio doesn't like is dead air.
Oh, I know.
So,
no.
But I think it's a good idea, and if you say, well, folks, we're gonna do something different tonight, or because for me 2 hours is always way short, but I've been doing it 8 years, So, how you feel? You hanging in there? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. We can. We only got 17 minutes left in the show, so I don't think 17 minutes is a problem.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and then at the end, you got the time right. So Folks, we hope you've enjoyed it. Ronny Dawson of Texas, and you can find him on Facebook or right here and on YouTube and iHeart and Spotify and Spreaker and Stitcher and FM radio and all kind of places. I pay extra money after this many years. I figured out where I want to be and what I want to be doing. So I don't have to go by the numbers on just one place because I spread it out all over the place. And people like our UFO shows. Thursdays we do psychic readings, and Sunday's sort of a spiritual show. And Thursdays are the ones that Anna likes. Anna, we're doing Thursdays for psychic readings with Suzanne. And then this one, and then Tuesday night, I'm going to start having people help with getting their businesses back going again with different men on Tuesdays for entrepreneurs about business and what we're doing together to, have a nice community in business and entrepreneurs. So if y'all got an idea, let Ronny or me know. But Ronny, pick up some more people in Texas or just go out, man on the street, and take your phone and call me if you got, all you need is service on your cell phone, I guess, and talk to people about how their business is going back up or whatever. It's just you ain't going to believe this, but we got UAP for unidentified anomalous phenomena, folks, UAP.associates, and then Ronny will be on ACIR.radio. That's ACIR.radio with me. And we'll I'll grab these shows he does and put them on a Ronny Dawson page. I got your picture from that mountain on one of my pages. Then I'll just go put them on that one because I can't get it back. I want you to send me some more pictures. I've used all the ones with different girls in them on the last two shows.
Yeah, I'm real ugly. I don't take good pictures.
Well, yeah, you do. You're not bad looking, and I'm sure you were much better looking when you were younger, but you're a distinguished-looking man. And I'm sure your wife likes you.
Good-looking women, yeah. I surround myself with good-looking women, and that way it makes me look a lot better.
Well, I've got a bunch of them up here. One of them you're smiling real big. Is the redhead your wife?
Oh, that was I think it's the oldest stepdaughter that dressed up going to the prom, I think, is one you're talking about.
There's several up here. Folks, if you want to see what I'm talking about, go to blogtalkradio.com/TJMorrisETRadio, like our page. But if you go to this show, there's pictures, 7 to 10 pictures a week. But tonight this one's called UAP Talk Shows Live yaain'tgonnabelievethis ! Ronny Dawson, and then TJ Morris ET Radio Shows, so people will start knowing where to find us, because that's the brand or the name of the show I've had since June 3rd, 2012, TJ Morris ET Radio Show. So TJ Morris ET Radio, I've got shows, but that's the way that y'all can find us. I put Janet's name here but she'll probably put it on hers too. She syndicates on Spreaker and other places too, Ronnie. Well, you got 12 more minutes, but every week you can, maybe just get ready. I'll just keep saying it, but I'm going to put series and then I'll put episode. And if you email it when it comes to you to tjmorrisagency@gmail.com, you can tjmorrisagency@gmail.com, folks. I've got director at UAP.associates. It'll still go to TJ Morris Agency. But Ronny, send me what, if you think you're going to have several people or several talk, or just let me know. Or just give me a call, folks, 850-376-9100. That's my personal cell phone for business. Then if you call in here, Ronny, just tell them, call in to listen and put it on your Facebook every week, and then grab this one. You can go up, folks, to TJ Morris ET Radio. Just plug it into Google, whatever, and go to the one, or just click on it, go to that location, and then go to whichever show you want, like Ronny's tonight. And on the right-hand side, Ronny, you can download it right into your computer to reuse it. And, you can cut and paste the link and put it wherever you want it, on domains or whatever. But you can download the show right into your computer. On the right-hand side, it'll have a little download cloud. And you may have to click it a couple times or see different computers do it different ways. So you can start keeping your own archive so you don't lose your work on here, into your computer, and then put them on a thumb drive or something. But you can figure that out. But in the meantime, it's always here. I haven't lost any of my archives except the ones I deleted, like a dum-dum, because some of the people are dead now, like Stanton T. Friedman. But depending on what night we got, what person, and what genre or category will depend on what we talk about. If you folks wonder what I'm doing after this many years, I'm trying to keep, like, Saturday nights more entertainment, TJ Morris Entertainment Agency I've got, and we're just doing, you ain't gonna believe this, stories like we've told at truck stops or sitting around a campfire, or whether it's true or not, that's up to you to decide. But, Ronnie's got a lot of things that happened to him really strange anyway. So did I. So we just sort of got together. And I thought you were somebody else with somebody else that came on one time with the UAP group. But you didn't go to any UAP groups, did you? But
no,
you went
no,
to Roswell.
Yeah. No, I've never been to a UAP group, no.
Okay, well, I got to go answer the door. My dinner's here. I did a whatever that they deliver, Grubhub. Okay, well, you got the last 10 minutes. Okay, here you go. I'm on mute. To make sure I mute me and not you.
Yeah, I know. The other day we found out that the Roswell UFO Festival has been canceled, and it broke my heart, man. I thought that was the one UFO festival I was going to be able to make, and they were talking big there for a while. They were saying, we're not afraid of the coronavirus, and this is a very inhospitable place in Roswell at that time of year for viruses, and they weren't scared, and we were going on with it, and I was excited. I had my room booked, and I had buddies from UFO Busted Radio down in San Antonio that I've been friends with for years. I've never got to meet. And man, we're going to take all these guys from the UBR Facebook group. We're all going to get together, and I'm finally going to meet some of these guys. And then had my hopes up and had my room. And then the other day they said they canceled it. Disappointing. That just absolutely heartbreaking. So, and I've already been planning a vacation around that thing. So now I've got to figure out. What I'm going to do with my vacation time. And I tell you right now, it's not a great time to be working in the oil field. I still work in the oil field, and the other day we laid off 11 drivers. And luckily my seniority has got me secure for a while. I've been with the same company like 16 years, so I'm going to be one of the last ones to go, but we may all go. It's the oil field is just terrible right now. I mean, the price of oil it costs $28 a barrel to get a barrel of oil out of the ground, and I think the price they're paying for May is like $13 or something like that, and we're going in the hole paying that, and we still can't get nobody to sell their oil, and so nobody's making any oil, and they're shutting the wells down, and the oil field is just is ticking down like a clock, And I know they said in the Mississippi there's just all these tankers full of oil that the refineries don't need because the economies are shut down. And I don't know what's going to happen to the oil. If I had it my way, we'd just send all that overseas oil home and just use our oil. And wouldn't that be nice to use American oil for a change instead of importing? Because every tanker full of oil we import over here, we export just tons and tons of money to overseas to people who don't like us, and that's it's really frustrating, and you have people that need to work, and we have the oil to supply America's needs, and we're going to have to get creative to do it. I don't doubt that, but we've got that kind of people here. We have that kind of technology available to do this stuff, with some of these new oil that we're finding and stuff like that. We're finding incredible amounts of oil, and we were even talking about exporting America's oil for the first time ever here a while back. So we're making a lot of oil. We don't need overseas oil, and let them keep it, but so many people don't want to do that. We're so used to paying them money, and they're so reliant upon our money that God only knows the world will fall to pieces if we quit paying them our money, So I don't know, but things going to have to be different. I know it's tough out here in the oil field, and I feel for all these guys that are getting laid off out here trying to make ends meet. I understand. I know, man. We had 5-year hands, 5-year employees that went down the road the other day, and this was their livelihood, and now it's gone. So I'm lucky to have some seniority and not be one of them. And my family is grateful too, because I'm the sole provider of my family. So, but I want to thank you guys for being here and listening to the show. And like I said, I have a lot of UFO experience, and I'll try to keep it up as long as I can. And I've still got. I came across. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Beck Spear, and I'm thinking maybe next week we can talk about that. What the Beck Spear is. I found a guy down in Santa Ana, Texas, who has something that's very similar to the Beck Spear, and I went down and checked it out, and it blew me away. And I've got some videos of it on my YouTube channel, the Ronny Dawson YouTube channel, and like I said, it'll blow you away. I think we'll talk about that next week. And man, it is. I've even talked to TTSA, who's interested in this thing. So I mean, it's out there. It's getting some publicity. Not many people know about it. I've done a few radio shows talking about it, and the man who had in possession of it, the story's having some growing pains right now because there's some members of his family don't want the public to know that he has a piece of a UFO. Of course, would you think about it? And he's open about it. He wants to talk about it, but there's other people in his family that ain't, and they don't like me bringing it into the public so everybody knows. So I'm kind of stuck in between what different people in his family want, but I'm also a ufologist. I want to know the truth. I want to get to the truth. I want to show you the truth. I've seen the truth. I know the truth. I mean, I don't have to get disclosed by the government. E.T. disclosed to me that he's here. He flew some UFO over my head. They came into my bedroom and pulled me out of my sleeping body for a conversation. I've been up close and personal with these things. I know they're here. I know they want to make contact. I don't know when they're going to do it, but they've showed me some of the stuff they can do, and it is absolutely mind-boggling. It's like it would be centuries before we could get to where they are. And even as technologically advanced as they are, they've admitted to me that they've been to war with an even more advanced species that came in basically and tried to shove them around, and they had to form a federation, fight back. And I'm thinking, my God, if those kind of guys happen on us, we're completely screwed. Yeah, if those guys, as technologically advanced as they are, they said they almost got wiped out. They said, imagine an enemy that can show up be on you in a second without any advance notice, because these things were using interdimensional travel, and these guys were very interstellar knowledgeable, but they hadn't done the interdimensional travel. They had to get schooled on interdimensional travel, and they had to do it quickly because they ended up in a war with a species who could interdimensionally appear and attack you and then leave without any notice. So you can imagine fighting a war like that. It was tough. And when they finally managed to kill one of these things, they thought they were, there for a while. They said that they thought that they were invincible, that they were like godlike, that they couldn't be destroyed, that they couldn't die. When they finally killed one, they told me, they said they've got this thing, and this is like an intergalactic. This is something the whole the intergalaxy where they're at. Everybody wants to come see this thing. It's that amazing that everybody in their whole galaxy travels over here to see this thing. It's like going to see the Grand Canyon here in the United States. Interstellar tourists just flock to this thing. Well, they managed to kill the first one. That is like their Grand Canyon on this one planet that they got this thing on. I was like, man, I want to see that thing myself, whatever it is. So
somebody from San Jose showed up. You want to say hi, San Jose, to Ronnie?
Hey, how's it going? Now, we got like 2 minutes left in the show here before we end up having to close. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. It's been fun putting it on, and we're going to try to keep on. And my son is sitting here cheering. He's been listening to the whole thing. He's excited.
Well, yeah, let him say hi.
There he says hi.
Hi. How many children do you have?
I've got 3 at home right now, and I've got one that lives in Colorado that's got 2 grandkids.
Oh, well, they can get on Google. The kids ought to be excited to see Grandpa. Just go to Ronny Dawson, You Ain't Gonna Believe This on Google, or TJ Morris ET Radio. Pull it up either way. But this one says UAP Talk Shows Live. I took out a domain name called Talk Shows Live. I'll probably just start listing our shows on there. I've got UAP Associates, but whatever. I've got different ways to market, but I've paid for so much to get this out. I'm sure that people will start hearing about you, Ronny, and it'll be all over. But, folks, be sure and meet him at Roswell now. He takes that trip to Roswell every year. So July 4th weekend, we celebrate usually July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Yeah, they canceled it. They just canceled it. Yeah, it's done.
They did?
Yeah, they canceled it.
Darn
it. Breaks my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to have the Olympics then. September in Tokyo. Well, folks, we'll keep you.
You need a UFO speaker? Call Ronny Dawson. I would love to do some speaking at a UFO conference and show my pictures and stuff. I think it'd be awesome.
You got a PowerPoint. They want PowerPoints, but get in touch with, what is that big UFO? There's iUFO Congress. Now, I don't know if they're going to have it in downtown Phoenix or not, but look up International UFO Congress, Ronny. You got to submit yourself. They don't just go looking for people. And it takes a year or 2 to get on most of the conferences. And then the other one that I help is, I help a paranormal conference. Now, there's Mid-South Con, but you got to get yourself there. You can get on with Mid-South Con in Memphis. I spoke there on the paranormal panel. And then we have the Pyramid Conference in Chicago I support. And the other one, what is his name? Is it Don? Who's the big guy that's been around forever? He started off with Wendell Stevens. What's his name? Oh, Bob Brown Productions. He lives in Colorado, but he does the one out there where Paula Harris does out there in Laughlin. So you need to call or email him. I didn't know you wanted to do that, but you have to submit, Ronny. So go on Google and look at all the UFOs. You have to submit a year or 2 years before you even get in. So I'm on the list for Bob Brown for next year because he barely got in under the COVID wire in February of this year. So it's probably going to be UFOs next year. But I do help people. We have agents, consultants, and organizers, folks, and we have Authors Club. If you're an author, if you're not writing your book, please start. Ronny's got one. Ronny, your book's on Amazon, right? Tell them what the name of your book is.
It's a Ronny Dawson UFO Story. It's on Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Amazon. You can even order it through Walmart.
Okay, folks, and be sure and like us. Ronny, you hadn't even liked us yet. Go to blogtalkradio.com/TJMorrisETRadio, Ronny, and like us. Okay, follow us or whatever that is, and tell all your friends, too, to keep us on the air. And we'll be back next Saturday. And, Ronny, you grab this and put it on your page and tell your friends. And, we got Patreon, folks. We're going to make a video, better quality video if y'all want to promote us on Patreon. And we got projects we're working on. If you're interested in working with my paranormal or UFO or spiritual community, we're having a lot of fun just meeting each other. Thank you, Ronny. You did a good show tonight. We appreciate you running this series for us. So, folks, thank you so much, and I will be back. Let's see, this is Saturday, so I'm going to do I'll do Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for sure. Love and light, everybody. Thank you, Ronny.
Thank you, Teresa.
Stay in touch now. Stay in touch, everybody, on LinkedIn and Facebook. Love and light. See you next week.